Where to find purpose? Does it have to be so complex, or can it be just as simple as breath when you wake up? I mean, it's easy for me to say that it can be easy, and no doubt, like I've had struggle. I've struggled before. I know what it's like to experience the complexities of life. Um, but when one comes into that simplicity or that clarity, then you realize that the complexity is just this mentally constructed confusion that we go through when these different parts of our mind aren't operating cohesively together. So the complexity of it all is really made up. It's made up by us, to us, because we don't know how to process or express the intangible emotions that we go through, the pain, the suffering, the hopelessness, the worthlessness, um, the feeling of being lost. And when we're in a space, a mental space, that we feel lost, then it only can appear complex. It looks like this great confusing puzzle, and we can't even find a piece to put the pieces together because it's just all in disarray. So something as simple as the breath, like the breath is always there for you. It happens as soon as your next breath. And when you look at someone or yourself, when you're panicking or you're really anxious or worried, the breath is not there. The breath is meaning you're not conscious of it. It becomes shallow. It becomes erratic. It's which means that consciously speaking, energetically speaking, you're not balanced. You're not in alignment. The breath is just an automatic thing that occurs on its own, but when you adhere your attention to it, it puts things back into equilibrium, quite literally. The attention and where it's going. When you feel depressed, when you are anxious, your attention is way back up in your head. It's way deep, reviewing scenarios and ideas of things that and how they fit together, and going through the internal dialogue of not just relationships that you have with people in your head, but this constant narration of how it should fit together. And when you're doing that, your attention is not on the breath. It's not on the world around you. It's not on the sensation of the breeze passing through the air or the distant sound of a dog barking. It's lost in a non-physical space that we are generating by thinking. And thinking about it only generates more and more and more and more thought. So by getting the skill of being attentive to your breath, it slows down the trains of thought that have so much momentum to go on to more preceding thoughts, and it returns you back to station, so to speak. So your station and where you're actually conducting the show is just right here in your breath, your body, your where your brain sits, your brain pan, and your muscles, and this thing right here is all that's really going on, and what's going on around you. All of the struggle and the strife and the suffering that we go through, that's generated mentally. So the breath is just a cue, in a sense, like a reminder to come back. And the more and more you practice focusing on your breath, the better you get at it. The more you familiarize yourself with what it feels like to be at peace, to be at rest. And then it gets easier, it gets easier, it gets easier. I'm telling you, it does get easier. And you will face times of difficulty and struggle and annoyance and when the shit hits the fan, or when somebody's being an asshole. And it's those times when it'll really shine through, and you remember, oh, this isn't all there is. This isn't all there is. Oh, see how these people are projecting their internal battles on the world around them and making an ass of themselves? Ah, I see it there. I see it there. And you can let it go. You can, in a sense, detach from, as you learn to detach from the grips of your mind, you thereby can see how other people are trapped in their own mind. And then you don't fall for the mental traps that they're laying out for everybody, because you know how to disarm your own mental traps. And you gradually learn that as you learn to breathe and meditate and find your center. Find a spiritual practice. Do you believe there are winners and losers in life, or just people on different paths? Yeah, just people on different paths. I mean, if that's the kind of closed-ended question, because winning and losing is a matter of perspective. It's a matter of, what does it mean to win? What does it mean to be successful? Those are all subjective ideas, concepts that we have. I mean, you might look at a billionaire as being ultra successful and getting everything they want in life and winning, so to speak. But you look under the hood there, you might find a very unhappy, unstable person who seeks validation through material gain. Meanwhile, you could look at an impoverished person living on the banks of the Ganges in India who literally drinks water that is heavily polluted, and they are absolutely joyous every single day because all they need is the little meager bits that they get, and they get to have a deep, real connection with their family, with the people around them, and their life is rich and abundant. So, putting those two concepts side by side, who's winning? Well, again, it's subjective. I find it too realistic, and we really dismiss the grip of dread because it is convenient. What happens if, when in the center of meditation, these ideas not go away, the good and the bad? So another idea that I'd like to express when it comes to meditation and finding your center is what naturally happens when you start to do that. An expansion of your awareness. The idea isn't necessarily to avoid or negate feelings of pain and suffering. The idea is to become more clear of them, to stop, so to speak, having your money on a specific horse in the battle. It's to stop betting on who will win. It's to stop investing yourself in the battle, and to sit back a little bit further and see it for what it really is, and see, how is this game operating? What is generating this feeling of dread and pain and insignificance, or what have you? It's pulling back to see more. And in some cases, that means experiencing it that much more, because you're shining a greater breadth of light on that which you're actually ignoring when you're deep into the battle. So, I mean, and I'll just keep riffing on stuff. Oh, here we go. I'm just gonna focus on the idea of idealistic, the word idealistic. Like, if you're in the shit, then it's always gonna look idealistic, because you can't see it from there. You can only see from within the perspective or the vantage of where you're looking. To be able to see it from to that vantage point can only appear idealistic, or like somebody is aloof or seeing things through rose-colored glasses or what have you, because you can only see through the parameters of your identity and how you perceive yourself. That's what creates the filter for how you are receiving this universe. And this universe really is limitless in its potential of what it can show you and what it can be for you. That which determines how it is experienced is you and what you believe in yourself, how you model your identity. What does one do when they cannot find love for themselves? First thing that comes to mind when I read that is maybe it would be easier to find a neutrality first. It might be hard to find love for yourself if you're always so preoccupied with hating on yourself. If you're always talking shit on yourself, then you're putting a lot of weight and momentum in that side of the court. Everything within you in that sense is cheering for the bad guy. You're cheering for another way of saying it, by talking shit on yourself, it's like you're feeding the worst parts of yourself. And sometimes, and this goes for like meditation or finding the breath, coming back into neutral. Just try to be impartial for a while. Be completely impartial. Let all of it go. Let all the shit go. Let the idea of who you are go for a while. And come back into just a neutral space where nothing has any inherent meaning. Just it is what it is. You're just a being inside a flesh machine that is operating, and it's operating, and that's it. And the sky is transitioning through the cycles of the day and night, and there's the weather, and there's all of these things that we have labels for. It just is. Everything just is. And that's more of a higher universal truth in this sense, that the reason you can't love yourself is because you're too busy hating on yourself. And so it goes against, it feels inauthentic when you try to love yourself or tell yourself that everything's going to be all right, or that you're all right, or that you have capability, or that you're a good, cool, even intelligent person. I know at least the people I'm talking to are highly intelligent, very good at speaking, and awesome, very cool people that are insightful. It's just so easy to lose sight of such things when you've been preoccupied with being so angry with yourself. So I have found in my expansion of awareness that the world does not become less ugly or more beautiful or anything within that snapshot of nomenclature. It's because both more dreadful and more beautiful. It bestows an insurmountable feelings of responsibility to see and not be deluded, to be and not be ignorant. Okay, so I think that next question kind of plays, I think, with that. Are people that are happy just self-deluded? You spelled it diluted, which is interesting. And while in my mental faculties and capability of comprehension and iteration of consciousness, these ideas are beautiful. Wisdom, however, I feel as if there's a degree of grounding in reality. The thing that I would say is limited in the expression that I hear from both of you is that you put limitations on what it means to either be in love or be happy. That those just exist as mere concepts or images in your mind and aren't directly felt to the same degree that you feel despair, and suffering and anger and loathing and helplessness and all these things. But it's just as valid of an experience, and you can tell that people really do experience this, that it is a very real thing, that it must exist. It must exist. It isn't some idealistic, imaginary, diluted idea that cannot be grasped or truly understood without ignoring the rest of the world. It can't really be known until you free up the limitations and open up your heart to the possibility first off, and then actually let it in. Which of course means letting this out, letting what's in the heart out into the world. Because when that connection is made, that's when you feel joy and pleasure and love beyond your wildest dreams, beyond your best approximation of what that could be. It's way better than that. It's way better than the confines of these words and what we're talking about. Hey, Morgan, welcome. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you guys for showing up. How do I remain... Oh, here. Okay, yeah. How do I remain spiritually conscious in an unconscious environment, such as at work? I suppose I would actually have to open up that conversation more and see what you mean by unconscious environment. Do you mean working in an office? Do you mean working with just like a computer, just like mundane work? My best answer to that before you open up that is to fill more of the moments of your day with consciousness. If you're spiritually conscious, then it's up to you to bring consciousness into the room, into your space. And consciousness is expanded through the vessel or the conduit of your awareness, your attention. To fill it more, to be more aware, is to bring consciousness to the show. And if other people are willingly being unconscious, then you can be conscious for them. And it might, it could be inflammatory. It could spark some things, but I guess that all depends on your situation. How can one stop trying to chase things and let things flow outside of meditation? Find any kind of goal or objective. Create an objective. Give yourself a mission. Give yourself a quest, and then see the quest through. Just find something to do and then do that. And once you create a connection between having a clear vision of what it is you want and then making the steps to get there, you will get into flow. You will acquiesce into a flow state as you continuously propel yourself in the direction of your objective and focus in your attention on what it is that you're trying to get or achieve or obtain. The key there is being clear on what you want and then going for it. To not stop yourself before you even move by creating lack of clarity or diluting the objective in the first place. Working with clients. I work remote as an IT consultant. I keep things simple and do small talk, as a deep conversation is appropriate in my field. I see. So this, that really comes down to how you regard what it means to be spiritually conscious in certain communities. For instance, like talking here in this chat, we're having deep conversations, so we're filling our mind up with a greater degree of consciousness. We're expanding our awareness to more otherwise deep perspectives over the otherwise shallow and small here and there chats that we have with people. But there is a way to access those very same depths, even in small talk. And I know this from years of working in food service, being a bartender, and then later in sales. I mean, yeah, there's keeping up with business and just keeping it shallow. But if you practice listening more, really listening to what people say, you can start to have more fun with it. You don't necessarily have to just regurgitate the same thing that you say all the time. Like when someone says, "How are you?" and you say, "I'm fine." Like saying "I'm fine" is very dismissive. It's eliminating that. So you could just have a little bit of fun. You know, somebody says, "How are you?" and you could actually tell them without, maybe telling them your life story, but you could leave it to open up a more real conversation. You have a lot more power over where a conversation can go, but you might not recognize your leverage in such a thing if you're not listening, if you're just thinking on the next thing to say or trying to get out of the conversation or the situation that you're in, seeking, another place. Like, I don't want to be here working, I want to be over there, at home or with my people or what have you. So listen more, listen deeply, and be more creative with your response. Small talk can be fun. It can provide an interesting and creative exercise beyond the confines of what it always looks like in terms of how's the weather, shitty, it's you can have fun with it. So have fun with it. Is it frustrating trying to explain topics like these to people who don't attempt to open their mind to the idea? Well, here's the thing. I don't. I used to. That's something I had to learn. There's no reason for me to try to even express these ideas to people that aren't asking. What we call that is unsolicited advice. Nobody wants that, and they have no use for it. It'll go literally out when you're out the other, over the head, whatever the turns of phrase are. I have learned that you can really only connect and help people that are seeking it, that are already framed and on trajectory towards figuring it out, because they're going to be the ones that are asking the questions that will guide the information, as it comes out. So there's just no reason to get frustrated trying to explain this to people that aren't going to listen, like in a situation where all that's going on is small talk, and so I pop up and say, "Hey, did you know we're all one consciousness?" It doesn't fit. It's it's kind of like reading the room, that sort of thing. I suppose what I'm trying to say, if I'm to give credit or viability to what my existence represents, I must give the same credit to its polar opposite. I like that, regardless of how expanded my awareness is. I love it. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, in terms of being realistic or grounded, is you have to give the benefit of the doubt, and by that I mean the doubting yourself. If you doubt yourself, or you don't think that you'll figure out what you need to figure out, or find what you're searching for, you are putting all your chips on one polarity there. You have to give credit to the opposition of even the evidence of your depressing thoughts or your misery. It's by, like, put more chips across the table, so to speak, in terms of putting yourself out there and investing in possibilities and potentials and opportunities. Realistically speaking, being positive or being negative is a choice, and it often doesn't seem like a choice, more because of habit than actual reality or being realistic. I think so. I would have to agree. The responsibility upgrades with awareness, because you become more aware of your impact on the world around you, as well as others' impact on the world around them. And with that clarity of truth and understanding, you do tend to see more of how other people are acting, and it can fire you up. It can really piss you off, but therein too, another level to that is recognizing your sovereignty, that you really only have control over your environment, and that expands out to not only your mental space, but the room around you, the world around you. You do choose the steps that you take when you get out of bed in the morning and where you're going to end up throughout the day, even if they seem like they're imposed upon you. If you're listening to this conversation, I guarantee you have a choice. You really do. You might consider other people that are in different, but that's all just conception. That's just in your mind. That's just you bringing energy into this moment via your mind. It's part of expanding your self-awareness is recognizing that going through life is also just going through a series of states, mental states, moods, dispositions. And as you come into more clarity and awareness, you may experience more of the dark night of the soul, let's call it. But if you keep going and you keep persevering, there is a light at the end of that tunnel, I assure you. I assure you. And I think you know, deep down, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I know it. I know it. I know that you know what I'm saying. My soul is singing to the soul within you. So this is my attempt at lighting my beacon so that you can light yours and shine your light for others so that they may see themselves through their dark tunnels and so forth. I like how you say responsibility upgrades. I wonder if it sounds good. I wonder if I should be louder, if I should turn up the gain on the microphone. I wonder if it's picking up chatter in the room upstairs. I'm not 100% certain on it. I won't be able to know until I'm listening in later. Thank you, Morgan. Thanks for coming in. I hope that was helpful. I hope that's useful. Just be more creative. Have fun with it. Have fun with the moment that you're in. Kind of open up to it, toy with them. Have fun with them. Goof off. Be silly. Like, it's a... Cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in. I want to keep doing this. I want to keep doing this more. Yeah. The light exists simultaneous with the darkness. I guess this is where the grounding comes in. Therein lies the storm. Light is not the only conclusion. It sucks. It is frightening, yet it is true. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the pitfall of a lot of people that I see in the, so to speak, spiritual, maybe even more New Age community, and even like Christianity, like all of it, is this kind of obsession or adherence to the idea of the light and what that represents. And while it is true in its own right, the darkness is very real too. And just because someone may utter, the source or the truth of the universe is this grand, perfect order of God's light. If it wasn't for the darkness, we wouldn't have the contrast. It puts shadowing on everything. It allows for textures and variants and spectrums and just the whole expanse of physical experience and all of its expressions couldn't exist if There weren't these two polarizing opposites. But even then, I do point out that, and perhaps this is a point of contention with people in the spiritual community, which I haven't quite pinpointed, and maybe it isn't my job to. Because I peruse in different chat rooms and forums and stuff, and I read and I see what people have to say and how emotionally charged they get with these things. And I guess if I was to narrow it down, it seems like the big argument is what came first. And this is like the chicken and the egg argument, really, when it comes down to it. The void or the light, what came first? That there had to be nothingness first in order for the light to fill into or what have you. And maybe one argument to that is that they're just simultaneous, that just is the way it is. But I surmise, at least in my explanation, the way that I would deliver this idea is that the light comes first, because the light is consciousness. The light is the eyeballs. It's the mind. It's the ability to see. To see is light. We couldn't see if there wasn't light. And without that, we wouldn't have a point of reference on any kind of darkness. It's the same to say creation comes first. That if anything was to come after creation, creation is always. Like, okay, if we look at the polarity between creation and destruction, you have creation, but you have to create destruction. You have to... One can't exist without the other, but my argument is that the light comes first, or that we are positively inclined as consciousness to expand and grow. And we see that in all of nature. While, yes, entropy exists and things die, it only makes way for more growth, more birth, more expansion. So it's in a sense winning. The light will always win in that sense. It can't help it. Is this a soul trait? I do not know. But regardless of how aware I am, regardless of the state of conscience I reside, and hereto this responsibility to see. A judge, jury, and executioner, even in a field of flowers. You're a poet. Yeah, and I would say you're all of them. You're all of it. You're the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, the and the defendant and the victim. Like all of it, we take on all these roles and they play in our heads, and we experience this perhaps as our different affinities or aspects of self. And when those different aspects finally come to a sentencing or a conclusion or an agreement, then consciousness expands, and yet a new relationship of inner self can be explored. The light and dark are one. That's the teaching of the yin yang symbol. Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah. This is, I'm not telling any secrets here. This is just my way of expressing the perspective of such a thing. Actually, I am Andrew. I could not tune in the end. Okay. This is cool. I'm glad you guys showed up. This is awesome. Feels good. I want to make more content, make more videos, but I can't always think of what to say just on my own without it being like totally abstract and out there, coming from my own mind. But I'm going to start making it a point to create almost daily videos and start doing lives, and then I think there could be some content here to take it further. So thank you for showing up. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. I'm glad I met you guys. And I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm doing this too. I hope that you can draw some kind of value from it. I know it's not as good as a real face-to-face conversation, but it's something. I got things to say for days and days. I'm an unlimited wellspring of ideas regarding the human disposition and where we could go with it. Not just... Oh, here we go. A lot of teachers pose as tarot readers or astrologers on YouTube. That way there's always something to talk about. Yeah, like you say, pose as tarot reader. Yeah, it's... there's something for everybody. There's something to be gained from all of that. I can't tell you how many times, for instance, I have a favorite horoscope website called Cafe Astrology. And not all the time, but sometimes it is so to the T of exactly what I'm going through. It's just like this little moment of synchronicity that initiates an endorphin release of joy and pleasure, to be like, it's like finding a little thread of connection to the big picture universe. And I think that's why people are drawn to such things as tarot and astrology, or swinging a pendulum, or that kind of almost fortune telling, if you will. There's a reality. There's truth behind that if you're willing to look and uncover those rocks. And it's feeding somebody. It's providing value to people. So yeah, it's not my thing. Like I actually used to toy with that. I have a deck that I got from my wife. I guess she didn't want it anymore. They're called karma cards, where you draw 3 different aspects of I can't even remember who made them, but it's useful, but it can also be abstract and have no practicality and be completely off. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on, one sec. Hey, baby. I'm actually on a live right now. You are live on the air. Okay. Yeah, just text me. We doing dinner soon, baby? Cool. All right. Well, I wasn't going to do this for too long, so I'll be getting off soon. But I got some people talking, so it's great. Okay, awesome. All right. I love you. Bye. Love you too. Okay, bye. Yeah, I'll just riff on the last thing I'm reading in the chat. Yeah, so and now I will admit there are times that I look at my astrology report and this is complete nonsense, or it's going to tell me I'm having a bad day. And I think too, there's a pitfall in putting all your chips or your energy into the idea that these things are so real, because now it has some semblance of control over you. The idea that the stars and the planets have influence over you is grandiose in a sense. I mean, it's a powerful thought to have, but to give that ultimate control, to be like, oh, Mercury's retrograde, I'm destined to fumble around with my technology because of the star patterns. Like, no, you have your own power, you have your own influence, you have far greater influence over the world around you than any external body that you could possibly perceive. At least that's my message for people. It's one of self-empowerment, not of any possible spiritual school that you get into has validity, but it has its limitations. I got one viewer left. Well, I'm about to close it up. If there's anything else that you guys you want to say or anything, I know there's a delay on this, so I'll give it a little bit of time. But thank you so much for hanging out, talking to me. This is cool. I'm enjoying myself. Oh, okay. Morgan, thank you. Thanks. It's been cool. I'm going to do it again. Please tune in again. If you got ideas, if you got questions, if you got whatever you want to say, it gives me something to talk about. And I'm at a point with my business where I need to get out a lot more content in any way that I can. So I'm going to dedicate a little bit of my office time to just turning on the camera and letting it freestyle just kind of pour out and flow, because I think that's where a lot of the best stuff comes from. So thank you so much. I'll see you. And yeah, I have fun bringing consciousness to the people that you work with or that you must talk to. Have fun with them. It always feels good to get someone laughing or kind of break somebody's pattern a little bit. It can be fun for you, and I think that's how you can begin to introduce more consciousness to the unconsciousness of having to fend for yourself in the marketplace. So thank you. I'll see you. Peace, love.